Hey guys, in this episode we're going to cover part 2 of the context principle as well as circle progressions. I also want to give a very special shout out to Valerie Amador of Bass Musician magazine. She's been featuring the Music Mechanics series in the magazine twice a month. If you haven't checked out Bass Musician magazine yet, I highly recommend it. It's an excellent magazine. So let's get to it. In the last episode, we discussed the context principle. Here's the second half. The chords and/or melody before or after a chord and/or melody in question determine its context and function. In other words, what comes before or after a chord and/or melody in question helps determine its relationship to a tonal center. To illustrate this, suppose you have a B-flat minor 7th chord. Hearing it alone by itself, you might assume the tonal center to be B-flat minor. Now, let's put chords before and after it. The chords before and after the chord in question, B-flat minor 7, help determine the relationship of the B-flat minor 7th chord to the chords surrounding it. In other words, the chords before and after the B-flat minor 7th help establish the context of that chord in regards to the overall tonal center. Heard alone by itself, B-flat minor 7th sounds like the tonic chord, but in this context it becomes evident that B-flat minor 7 is the 4 minor 7th chord and F minor 7 is the tonic chord, since the entire progression is a 1 minor, 4 minor 7, 5 7, and 1 minor 7th progression. The surrounding chords serve as indicators of the B-flat minor 7 chord's relationship to the tonal center and how it fits in the grand scheme of the F minor tonality. Incidentally, this principle can also be useful in identifying incomplete chords. For example, take a look at this progression in the tonal center of E flat. The chord in question is the D diminished chord in the middle of the other two chords. By itself, this doesn't look like any kind of recognizable chord progression you might run into. Using Roman numeral analysis, we arrive at this chord progression. Still not making sense? Let's add a B flat as the lowest note of the middle chord. If we use Roman numeral analysis now, we realize that the 7 diminished is in fact an incomplete 5-7 chord, which makes a 2 minor, 5 dominant, 1 major progression an extremely common chord progression. Incidentally, I should mention that in classical analysis, a 2 minor, 7 diminished, 1 major is a perfectly legitimate chord progression. This never made sense to me since the movement of the roots of each chord in a 2 minor, 7 diminished, 1 major progression is down a minor third and then up a minor second, which is a fairly strange way for roots to move. On the other hand, a 2 minor, 5 7, 1 major progression is a very strong and well-known progression since the roots of the chords keep moving down in perfect fifths. Chord progressions with the roots of the chords descending in perfect fifths are called circle progressions. They are named as such since the circle of fifths also moves down in perfect fifths or up in perfect fourths. But that's where the similarity ends. Another well-known example of a circle progression is the 3 minor 7, 6 minor 7, 2 minor 7, 5 dominant 7, and 1 major 7 progression. Virtually any progression where the root movement of descending perfect fifths or ascending perfect fourths is sustained for any length of time qualifies as a circle progression. Does the context principle work for melody as well as improvisation? Absolutely. Take a look at this chord progression in the tonal center of D-flat major. The Roman numeral analysis for this progression is a 1 major 7, 3 minor 7, 4 major 7, 5 dominant 7, 6 minor 7, 2 minor 7, and 5 dominant 7 progression. According to some chord scale systems, the hierarchy for scales used over a minor 7 quality chord includes using the Dorian mode first. However, should the F Dorian mode be your first choice to use over the F minor 7 chord in this example? No. This is because the F minor 7 chord is constructed from stacked thirds taken from the F Phrygian mode, the third mode from the D-flat major scale, and starting on the third scale degree, which is F. As you know, these modes create these chords, with D flat major being the tonal center. In this context, the F Phrygian mode is a much better choice than the F Dorian mode since it fits the D flat major tonal center perfectly. Let's look at the next chord, G flat major 7. The common first choice in the chord scale system for a major 7 quality chord is the major scale, followed by the major pentatonic and then the Lydian mode. But is the G flat major scale really the best choice over the G flat major 7th in this context? No, the G flat Lydian mode is, since it is the G flat Lydian mode that created this chord. Notice the C natural in the G flat Lydian mode. In the same way, in this context, the B flat Aeolian mode would be the best choice for the B flat minor 7th chord, since this chord is built from the Aeolian mode on the 6th scale degree of the D flat major scale, and the E flat Dorian mode is the best choice to use over the E flat minor 7th chord, since this chord is built from the Dorian mode on the 2nd scale degree of the D flat major scale. Notice in all of these that all the notes are flatted except for the F natural and C natural, the same as the D flat major scale, which is the tonal center. In other words, melodic or improvisatory scale and mode choices are usually contextually dependent on the underlying chord's relationship to a tonal center, keeping in mind that a chord in question is created from a particular mode relative to a tonal center. This being said, according to the aforementioned compatibility principle, you do have first, second, third, and more scale or mode choices available to you, and these often can imply temporary tonal center shifts, as we'll see much later. The scale or mode choices you make depends on the kind of sound you are looking for. The second part of the context principle simply identifies the most likely and consonant choice. Hi guys, just wanted to congratulate you if you've been following along and have made it this far. This will be the end of what I consider to be beginning music theory. In the future, I plan on having an intermediate, advanced, and expert series on music theory, as well as perhaps composition, orchestration, songwriting, maybe audio engineering. Now for some news. I won't be posting music theory classes for a while since I have a project that's going to take several months. However, if you're interested, we can interact over the next several months on my newly created Music Mechanics group on Facebook. I'll be checking in about once a week. Here you can ask me questions, we can talk about music theory, and I'll post supplementary examples for each of the episodes. I'm really looking forward to actually being able to meet you and speak with you. In the meantime, if you're interested in showing this channel a little love, you can certainly help support it by purchasing my album, Standard Deviation, or my book on overuse injuries entitled Overuse Injuries, Their Prevention and Treatment. All proceeds will go to improving the look and feel of this channel. Until the next episode, I sincerely wish you all a very Merry Christmas, and I look forward to talking with you on Facebook. Best to you all. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like and leave a comment below if you have any questions. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button.